Is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. And tonight, therapists in Wilmington are looking to break the stigma that surrounds men asking for help. WECT's Zach Solon heard from some therapists today about their efforts to reach those patients. Now, Zach, they say more men are coming forward, but many others just don't want to.
That's right, John. Since the pandemic, one therapist says he's noticed a 20 to 30% increase in the number of men reaching out about their mental health. This month marks a time to spread awareness about the benefits of seeking help. Suicide rates are 4 times higher in men than women. That's according to advocates at the nonprofit Mental Health America. The fact is, men are less likely to ask for help if they need it.
Seeking help for men is usually one of the hardest things for men because we're usually supposed to take care of other people.
Typically, they feel like they have to hide their emotions, especially from their significant other if they're in a relationship. Because of them hiding it, they often feel inferior at times.
Therapists with Wilmington Mental Health say while mental health issues have heightened since the pandemic, more people have come forward.
Well, my experience is a lot of the stigma that used to be attached with counseling is dissipating. We've been noticing an increase in male participation in therapy, upwards of 20 or 30% since the pandemic hit.
Adam Howell says there are continued efforts to break the stigma.
Historically, it seems like men were discouraged to express emotions, but it's very important that men learn how to acknowledge their emotions, learn how to grow from them, and be able to process it appropriately with other people.
But Gage Howard says it's important to remember help is always out there.
It's a lot braver to be able to ask for help than to suppress that. That's what a lot of people, regardless of gender, struggle with, is they feel asking for help is a sign of weakness, when in reality it just takes more courage to actually make that step.
Getting help is just a phone call or a text away. Dialing 988 will connect you with the National Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. You can find a list of other local resources inside this story on your news app. Zach Solon, WECT News.
State law